Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ophthalmology course presented by the Blue Falcon platform. It's worth mentioning that this course is the first to be concerned with the Qasr al-Aini curriculum. You don't need Google search anymore to search the curriculum topics. We present the curriculum in the easiest, most illustrated way, as you will see later. The most fascinating thing we did in this course is that we brought the department book and extracted every piece of info inside it and put it in easy points so you can study it easily. And of course, it is combined with the best illustrative photos so you can imagine every detail of the structures of the eye and every detail that will be explained later. So how will you study for this course? The first thing, you will watch the video on the Blue Falcon platform. Then you will read the presentation. As I said before, the presentation contains all the pieces of info from the department book. Then we will send you a quiz every week. You will solve the quiz that will be sent every week. And if you have any question, send a message to the Blue Falcon WhatsApp that is in front of you. So let's start with the first lecture, the anatomy of the eye. It's very important to understand the anatomy of the eye to be able to understand the physiology of the eye and also the diseases that might affect the eye. So we'll start by watching this 3D prototype of the eye to understand every detail about it. This video. So this is the most beautiful thing, the eye. So the first thing the eye is made of is called the cornea, okay, which makes the first part of the outer layer. And the second part of the outer layer is called the sclera. This whole white part, as we see here, this white part is called the sclera. So the cornea here and the sclera, this is the cornea, this is the sclera, makes the first coat, which is the outer coat. Let's see the middle coat. The middle coat is made of this colorful part, which is called the iris. Inside the iris, there is an opening, which is called the pupil. Okay, let's see the second part of the middle layer, which is called the ciliary body. This small part I'm pointing to is the ciliary body, and in this lecture, we will understand the details of the ciliary body. So let's move along the ciliary body, which we'll find here, this vascular layer, this layer, which is called the choroid. Okay, so the iris, the ciliary body, the choroid makes the second coat, which is called the vascular layer. Okay, the third layer is called the retina. This whole part you see here is called the retina. The retina is the part responsible for receiving the light, okay, and transmitting this light to the cortex through this nerve, which is called the optic nerve. And the retina is the last layer, which is called the inner layer. So we discussed now three layers: the outer layer, the cornea, and the sclera, this white part. The middle layer, which is formed of this iris, the ciliary body, and the red part, which is called the choroid. And all of this layer is called the retina. There's the last thing to know to understand the structure of the eye, the contents of the eye. Okay, inside this layer is the contents of the eye, which the first thing is called the lens. Okay, look at this part. This is the lens. Okay, the second thing is called the vitreous body, and the vitreous body here, if you see, it's a transparent structure. So there's two contents inside the eye: the lens and the vitreous body. And by showing this video, we understood that there are three coats: outer, the cornea, the white part, which is called the sclera, and then the second layer, the iris, the ciliary body, and the choroid. And if we get rid of this vitreous body, we will see the retina here, okay, which is the inner layer, and then the contents, the lens, as we see here. This is the lens and the vitreous body. So, after seeing this video, we understood that the eye is made of three coats: outer coat, middle coat, inner coat, and two contents: the lens and the vitreous body. So let's start with the outer coat, which is formed of the cornea and the sclera. Let's see here. So this transparent structure is called the cornea, and this white structure is called the sclera. This is the sclera, and this highlighted structure is called the cornea. So let's see what is the cornea. If we look at this picture, we would see that the cornea here is transparent. What is the transparency? Transparency is the ability to pass the light. So when a light meets the cornea, it passes with no obstruction. It's not like the wall, which is opaque, but it is transparent. Okay, if we looked at this picture, this is the cornea. Okay, and if you look at the shape of the cornea, you would see it's like convex. This curvature is it's like convex. Its name is convex. Okay, so what does the cornea do to? The cornea refracts the light. What is the refraction of the light? Refraction of the light means you can change the direction of the light. We all know that the light travels in a straight line like this. So when it travels like this and meets the cornea changes its direction like this in order to enter the pupil, okay? When a light comes from here in a straight line, the cornea refracts the light in order to enter the pupil, in order to, get to the retina, and by this we can see the objects. Okay, so what are the function of this cornea, this biconvex cornea? The function of the cornea is protection of the eye from any injuries and any microorganisms that might invade. So let's talk about the structure of the cornea. The cornea are made of 5 structures. The first structure is called the epithelium layer, which is the outermost layer. Then the Bowman's layer, which separates the epithelium from the stroma. Look at the stroma. The stroma is the thickest layer that the cornea is made of. Why is that? Because we said that the main function of the cornea and the sclera, the outer coat in general, is the protection of the eye. So that's why the stroma is made of a very thick fibrous layer in order to protect the eye and the inner structures of the eye from any injuries, as we said, or any microorganisms. Okay, now to the fourth layer, which is called the descent membrane. The descent membranes separate the stroma from the endothelium. And now to the innermost layer, which is called the endothelium. Okay, the endothelium has an active pump which regulates the dehydration. We will see it in the transparency. All right, and in general, we say that the cornea is made of 5 layers: epithelium, Bowman's layer, stroma, descent membrane, and the endothelium. Here comes a very important question. Why is the cornea transparent? The cornea is transparent for 3 reasons. The first reason, if we looked at this right picture, this is the cornea and these are the layers of the cornea. The cornea layers are arranged in a very specific order in order to achieve transparency. Okay, this is the first reason. The second reason, if we looked at this picture, this is the cornea, you will see that there's no blood that supplies the cornea. There's no blood, there's no vessels inside the cornea. This will achieve also transparency. This becomes a very important question. If there's no blood supplying the cornea, how does the cornea get its nutrition? Okay, let's look at this picture here. This is the cornea. Okay, and this is the iris. Yeah, the colored part. The cornea and the iris. There's a space behind the cornea. That space is filled with a fluid. Fluid is called the aqueous humor. That aqueous humor acts exactly like the blood. It supplies the cornea with what it needs, with the food, with everything it needs. The aqueous humor gives it to this cornea. And the aqueous humor will be discussed in details in chapter 6, the glaucoma chapter. Anyway, okay, so the first thing we said, these layers are arranged in a very specific order. The second thing is the cornea has no blood. The third thing is also the cornea achieves the dehydration state. Okay, we said before that these are the layers of the cornea, and this is the endothelium, the innermost layer of the cornea. This endothelium have an active pump. This active pump regulates the water content in order to achieve the dehydration state. So we can summarize these 3 reasons of the transparency of the cornea. The first thing, the corneal layers are arranged in a specific order to achieve the transparency. The second thing, no blood. The third thing is no water. No blood means avascularity, and the no water, the dehydration state. And by this, we finished the cornea and the sclera. By finishing the cornea and sclera, we have finished the outer coat, which is the first coat of the eye, which provides the protection of the eye, the fibrous layer. Okay. Okay, let's go for the ophthalmology book, the department book, and we made a very beautiful thing. We got all the info inside the department book and we put it in points in order to study it easier for you. Okay. Okay. So this is the department book, Brief Anatomy of the Eye. Okay, as we said, the eye, outer coat, middle coat, inner coat, and the outer coat is formed of cornea, sclera, middle coat, iris, ciliary body, and the choroid. And the inner coat is the retina. Okay, and there is the contents, the lens, and the vitreous body. Okay, the outer coat is made of the cornea and the sclera. The cornea is transparent, convex, refracts the light, which means changing the direction of the light. Function of the cornea is protection of the eye from injuries and any microorganism that might invade. The structure of the cornea are made of 5 layers from the outside to the inside: epithelium, foamy membrane, stroma, descemet membrane, and the endothelium. All right, so the transparency of the cornea. Why isn't the cornea opaque? Why cornea can pass the light? 3 reasons, as we said. The first one, okay, let's just make the laser. Where is it? Okay. So the first thing is that the cornea layers are arranged in a very specific order to achieve transparency. Avascularity, which is no vessels, which is no blood. Dehydration means no water. How do we achieve the dehydration state? The endothelium of the cornea has an active pump. That active pump regulates the water content. Okay, here we go. So with this, we finished the outer coat, which is formed of the cornea and the sclera. And this is the sclera, and there's no details about the sclera, just it's formed of it's one of the structure of the outer coat. It provides protection for the outer coat. Okay, and now to the second thing, which is the middle coat. Middle coat is formed of the iris, the ciliary body. So in order to understand the vascular layer, we need to see this video. All right. So as we said, this is the cornea here, and this is the sclera. All right. So let's see this. Okay, and here comes the vascular layer. Okay, let me get the laser pointer. Okay. So the vascular layer is made of 3 parts. The first part is called the iris. All right. The second part is called the ciliary body, which is at the posterior surface of the iris. And the third part, that large part, is called the choroid. Okay, let me give you some fast info about each one of them. Okay, here we go. So let's see here. If we looked here at the iris, okay, so that is the iris. Inside the iris, there is an opening here which is called the pupil. Inside the iris, there are 2 kinds of muscles. These muscles are responsible for the size of the pupil, and the size of the pupil depends on the amount of the light that we want. Okay, so that first thing is called the iris. So this is the iris right here. This is the iris. This blue part is called the iris. Okay, and this dark opening is called the pupil. As we see here, look at the pupil. It moves, constricts, and dilates. Constricts and dilates like this. Okay, this is the first thing about the iris. All right, so let's take a look here at the ciliary body. Okay. If we looked here at the ciliary body, the main function of the ciliary body is secreting aqueous humor. The aqueous humor we discussed before, it's the fluid that replaces the blood inside the eye, right? It gives the nutrition to the avascular structures like the cornea. Okay, so the ciliary body, this structure is responsible for secreting that fluid. What else? Look at this. Look at this. What is this? That is the lens. So how is the lens fixed in behind the pupil, the opening? Ciliary bodies gives ligaments to that lens. Look at these these ligaments that coming out from the ciliary body. These ligaments all around is the reason why the lens is fixed in its place. All right, so this is the ciliary body. Secretes the aqueous humor and fix the lens by the ligaments. Okay, now to the last thing, which is called the choroid. Okay, that is here the choroid, and the choroid is the vascular layer. Okay, like it represents most of the vascular layer, and these vessels supplies the retina, which is the what? Here comes the retina. Yes, it's the third layer that lies down the choroid. So the choroid's main function here is providing nutrition for the retina. So as we said, the vascular layer is made of 3 parts: the iris, the ciliary body here, and the choroid. So after watching this video, we conclude that the middle coat or the vascular coat is made of 3 things: the iris, the ciliary body, and the choroid. So let's see the first thing, the iris. Okay, here we go. So if we look at this picture, we'd see a blue iris. If we looked at this picture, we'd see a brown iris. Oh my God. So the iris is formed of 3 things: The first thing is the pigmented cells, which give this color. Okay, the second thing is the muscle, which is responsible for the size of the pupil. The third thing is blood vessels, which is responsible for the nutrition of the iris. Okay, so here comes a very good question. Why do we have different eye color? If you look at this picture, you would see a blue iris. If you looked at this picture, you'd see a brown iris. What is the reason? What is the secret of this? Okay, so the cells of the iris have an amount of pigment inside it. If the amount of the pigment is more than a certain number, the iris tends to be more darker. Okay, black color, brown color like this. But if the amount of pigment is lesser than a certain number, the iris tends to be more lighter, blue, green, like this. So this is the reason why we have different eye color, because we have different amount of pigmentations. The first thing is the pigmented cell. The second thing is the muscle of the iris. Now to the muscles of the iris. Okay, in order to understand the muscles of the iris, we need to understand two pieces of info. So the first piece of info is that this is a type of a muscle, and this is another type of a muscle. Okay, this first muscle here has longitudinal fibers. Okay, but this muscle here has circular fibers. All right. So what's the difference between the longitudinal and the circular? The first thing is that the shape. This is longitudinal, this is circular. And the shape makes the contraction more way different. How? When the longitudinal fiber contracts, it becomes more shorter like this. This is the same, but it contracts, you know? Okay, but if we look at this circular fiber here, it becomes more thicker and more narrow. Okay, look at this. So this is here. When it contracts, it becomes like this. You know, more. Oh, this is a square. No, wait. There we go. So it becomes what? It becomes more narrower like this. Okay, so there are two different types of contraction. The longitudinal, when it contracts, it becomes more shorter. The the circular becomes more narrower. Okay, okay. So this is the first info. The second info is that the contraction of the longitudinal fibers makes the pupil more wider. The contraction of the circular fibers makes the pupil more narrower. Okay. Contraction of the longitudinal fibers here affect the size of the pupil, and the contraction of the circular fibers here affect also the size of the pupil. Okay, so the longitudinal fibers widen the pupil, so it's called dilator fibers. Here, when it contracts like this, it widens the pupil here, so it's called dilator. Okay, but if we look at the circular fibers, when it contracts, it makes the pupil more narrower. Okay, here, so it's called constrictor. Called what? Constrictor, like a sphincter. Okay, and that will tell us or explain the name of these two muscles. Okay, so if we want to know the name of these two muscles, we'll from the info that we just took. Okay, let's see this. So these fibers are longitudinal, right? So longitudinal. Okay, here we go. Longitudinal. Okay, and that longitudinal fibers, when they contract, they make the pupil more wider. Okay, so dilator pupillary muscle. So this is the first name. Longitudinal dilator pupillary muscle. Okay, what is the name of this muscle? So it's a circular fiber. So here we go. Circular. Okay, circular. And when it contracts, it makes the pupil more narrower. Makes constriction, right? It makes constriction of the pupil, more narrowing of the pupil. So it's called circular. Constrictor pupillary muscle, right? So there's longitudinal dilator pupillary muscle, and there's constrictor circular pupillary muscle. Okay. Okay, again, in order to understand the constriction and dilatation of the pupil, in order to understand the muscle of the iris. So this is normal size here of a pupil. Here we go. This is normal. Okay. We'll compare it to this around. Okay. So look at, see, this is the normal fiber. If you look at these longitudinal fibers here, the same length here. So there's no change in the what? In the longitudinal dilator pupillary muscle. There's no change here. If you look at this, there's no change. But look at the circular fibers here. They became more narrower, right? Here is different from here. More narrower, more thicker. So, constrictor, or circular, I'm sorry, circular, constrictor, pupillary muscle. Okay, it contracts here. So what muscle worked in this bit here It's the circular constrictor pupillae muscle. And look at the size of the pupil itself, it became more narrower. So you can know what muscle worked in this picture from two things. The shape of the fibers here, it became more thicker, and the size of the pupil here is the normal size, and here is the smaller size or the narrower size. So the constrictor here, circular constrictor pupillae muscle, worked here. Okay, so let's look at this picture. If we looked here at this picture here, we'll compare the fibers. Okay, look at the longitudinal here, the length here of the fibers, and the length here of the fibers. Oh, there's a change here. The fibers here is like this. This is the length, and the fiber here is like this. It's shorter. That means there's a contraction in the longitudinal dilator pupillae muscle, right? That means that muscle will contract. And let's see the result of the contraction of this muscle. Look at the size of the pupil. Oh my God, it became more dilated. So we knew what muscle work in this picture by two things. The length of the fibers has changed, the length of the fiber has changed here, okay, and the size of the pupil became more wider. I think by this we know the function and the why these muscles were named by these names. Okay. So the last piece of info about these muscles will be the innervation, the nerve's innervation. Okay. So we want to know what supplies the dilator, what makes the dilator works, and what makes the constrictor works. Okay. So this is not a voluntary movement from you. If you want to, if you want to dilate your pupil or you want to constrict your pupil, it's not about you. It's not a voluntary movement. It's an involuntary movement. What controls the involuntary movement? The autonomic nervous system, right? And the autonomic nervous system is divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic, right? Okay. So the sympathetic, as we know from pharmacology, is for fight, flight, okay, in dangerous situations, right? Okay. So if you're in a situation where you are fighting someone, you need to know, you want to see everything about around you, right? So the pupil will be, you need your pupil to become more wider, right? So the sympathetic will give an order to the dilator here. So the sympathetic will give the order to the dilator to contract, so the pupil becomes more wider. Okay. And let's see the circular. So what does the parasympathetic do? We know from pharmacology also that the parasympathetic, we need it for relaxation, for digestion, something like that. So you don't need much light to enter your eye when you are relaxing, right? So the parasympathetic gives innervation to this muscle here, the constrictor or the circular constrictor pupillae muscle, right? So it gives it the order to contract. When it contracts, the size of the pupil becomes more narrow and achieves the relaxation state that the parasympathetic is working on. Okay, by this, we have finished the iris here, and now to the ciliary body. So the ciliary body is mainly formed of two structures, okay? Pars plana and pars plicata. The word pars is a Latin word which means part, okay? And the word plicata is a Latin word which means processes. The word here, pars, as we said, part, and the word plana means flat. Okay, so this is the flat part of the ciliary body here, and this is the processed part of the ciliary body. So this is the flat part, and this is the part with the processes. Okay, and we will know each function of the flat part and each function of the processes, and we will know that the shape of these parts will help in the function. So as we said, there's pars plana, pars plicata, pars port plana flat, and this is the body, and there's a pars plicata, and this is pars port and processes, so the processes part and the flat part. Okay, let's start here. Let's look at this, as we said. So this is the pars plicata. In a side view, this is the plicata, this is the processes here, and this is the plana, which is here. Okay, okay. So let's start with the pars plicata, the processes part. Okay, so the processes part here is covered with epithelium. Here, this is where's the pointer? Here we go. That is the point. This is the epithelium that covers the processes part. Okay, this epithelium secretes the aqueous humor. Okay, the aqueous humor, as we said, is secreted from this part and will go like it will flow here and passes the pupil to the cornea. And as we said, it's responsible for the nutrition of the avascular structures. Okay. The other thing that is important about the pars plicata or the processes part here is that they give the suspensory ligament for the lens. As we saw in the video, that there's like venules or ligaments coming out of the ciliary body that makes the lens fixed in its place, right? So these processes of the ciliary body here gives these venules, as we see here. Okay, wait. Okay, let's see that video again. There we go. Okay, wait. So let's see the pars plicata. Here we go. Our option visible. Okay, here we go. As we said. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. So look at this. This here, if we look at this part, okay, this is the lens. Okay, this wait. So this is the lens here, okay, and there is like ligaments coming out from the ciliary body. Okay, this is a broad view. In order to see the closer view, as I said, so that ciliary processes here, the ligaments comes out from these processes in order to suspend the lens. Okay, okay. So this is the first part, which is called the pars plicata or the processes part. Two things. As an epithelium that secretes aqueous humor, okay, number two, it's the ligaments comes out from these processes. Okay, let's go for the flat part of the ciliary body. Okay, this is the very important point. In order to understand the pars plana or the flat part of the ciliary body, we need to understand what are we seeing here. So this is an anterior view. So this is the ciliary. Look at this. This is the ciliary muscle. Okay, and these are the ligaments or the venules coming out of the ciliary muscle to suspend the lens here. Okay, this is also an anterior view here, as we see. These are the venules. This is the lens. Okay, but this is a lateral view here. Okay, that's the lens, that's the ciliary muscle, and these are the muscles. Okay, we need to remember that very important piece of info I gave you before. If we looked at this ciliary muscle, we will figure that this is a circular fibers, right? These are circular fibers. And as I told you, circular fibers contract in what way? They contract that they became more narrower, that the thickness of the muscle became more thicker, right? Okay, so let's see the video. Here we go. Wait. Okay, here we go. So look at this muscle. Circular fibers contracts. They became more narrower here and more thicker, right? Okay. The space becomes more narrower and the fibers become more thicker, okay? But look at the zonules. There's a great difference here and the zonules here, right? Okay, let's return to the original. Here we go. So the fibers didn't contract here. Okay, and the zonules are tense. Look at the tense of they are like tight here. But when these muscle contracts. Okay, look at what happened. Look at the venules. Oh, the venules became more relaxed like this. Okay, the venules became more relaxed, and if the venules are relaxed, what will they affect? They will affect the lens. Okay, let's return back here. I want you to focus on the lateral view this time. Okay, the lateral view I'm pointing to right now. The zonules here are tight and tense. Okay, when the ciliary muscle contracts, look what happened. Look what happened here. Oh my God. So let's give a look at this. So the muscle became more thicker. Okay, and the zonules became more relaxed here. And look at the lens here. It became more convex. Again, here we go, more convex. When it contracts, the lens became more convex. When the lens becomes more convex, this increases the refractive power on the lens. And if we increase the refractive power of the lens, that makes it easier to see the near objects. Okay, and this is called accommodation. Look at this accommodation, how it starts. It's like starting by the contraction of the ciliary muscles here, and then here and here and here. And then the venules became more relaxed, like here and here. And that's made the lens here more convex, and you will see it in the lateral view only. Here we go, more convex. More convex means more refractive power. More refractive power means making the near vision better. And this process is called accommodation. Okay, in order to summarize the ciliary body, we'll say it's formed of two parts here, the body and the process. Okay, and the processes here. So the process, as we said, they secrete the aqueous humor and they give like the origin of the suspensory ligament here of the lens as we see in this picture here. Also in that picture, okay. Also in that picture, here we'll see this the process is giving the attachment to the ligaments or the venules of the lens. Okay, in order to make it fixed in front here, as you see, this is the pupil. Okay, and about the body itself, the body it's responsible for the accommodation process. How did the accommodation process start? Okay, there's a contraction here in the muscles of the ciliary body. The venules become more relaxed, and when it become more relaxed, the lens become more convex. More convex means more effective power. More effective power means better near vision. Better near vision means accommodation. Okay, as we said, the middle coat is formed of the iris, the ciliary body, and the last thing is the choroid. So let's see the choroid. All right, here we go. Here we go. So, if we look at this picture here, we'll see this. Let's just get the laser. Here we go. Okay, so this is the outer coat, the cornea, and the sclera. Okay, and if we get rid of the sclera, what we'll see, we will see that layer, which is called the choroids, made of blood vessels. That vessels are giving nutrition and support to the retina. This is the retina, okay? This is the choroid here, okay, the vasculae, and that is the retina, okay? By this, we have finished the middle coat, the iris, the ciliary body, and the choroid. Now to the department book. So the middle coat is formed of three parts: the iris, the ciliary body, and the choroid. Okay, there we go. So the iris is made of the pigmented cells and gives the color of the eye because of the pigmented cells. Okay, the structure of the iris, pigmented cells, muscles, blood vessels. Okay, the iris has a hole in its center, which is called the pupil. The iris, at its posterior surface, there is the ciliary body. Okay, so the pupil, it's an opening which is circular and its location is inside the iris. Okay, it allows the transmission of light. Okay, it controls the amount of light that will reach the retina. By what? By constriction and dilatation. Constriction is narrowing, dilatation is widening, and we will see how this mechanism occurs in the muscles of the iris. Okay, the muscles of the iris. Okay, iris smooth muscles. There are two types of muscles inside the iris: the circular constrictor pupillae muscle and the longitudinal dilator pupillae muscle. And from the pictures that I showed you, you know the difference between the circular constrictor and the longitudinal dilator, we knew the reason why it's circular, why it's constrictor, why it's longitudinal, why it's dilator, and we also said that the circular constrictor pupillae muscle are innervated by the parasympathetic nerves. Okay, and we said the longitudinal dilator pupillae are innervated by the sympathetic nerves. Okay, this is the function of the circular constrictor from its name, constriction, and here the longitudinal dilator from its name, dilatation of the pupil. Okay, so the middle coat, we finished the iris, we finished the pigmented cells and the muscles and the pupil. Now to the ciliary body. So the ciliary body of the iris, it lies at the posterior surface of the iris. It secretes the aqueous humor and tells the structure, the most important parts, pars plana and pars plicata. Okay, we said pars part, plana flat, pars part, the plicata processes. Okay, so the ciliary body of the iris, these are the structure, pars plana, pars plicata. So let's see the function of the pars plana or the flat part. Okay, it contains the smooth muscle, which is called the ciliary muscle. The muscle, when the muscle contracts, the ligament relaxes, so the lens bulges. That will increase the refractive power of the lens, and we will see near objects and accommodation occurs. Okay. Two, the processes or the ciliary processes, okay, they are covered with epithelium. That epithelium secretes aqueous humor. The aqueous humor, as we said, is responsible for the nutrition of the avascular structure, and also it's responsible for the maintaining the shape of the eye, and that will be discussed in chapter 6. Okay. Also, the processes give the attachment to the suspensory ligaments that suspend the crystalline lens. Okay. So the iris, the ciliary body, and the choroid, they make the middle layer, which is called the second layer, the vascular layer. The function: provide the retina with nutrition and support. Ciliary body secrete the aqueous humor. Okay, and now to the contents of the eye, the lens and the vitreous body. Let's start with the lens. Now to the crystalline lens. Okay, if we looked at this picture here, this is the crystalline lens. All right. So the crystalline lens lies behind the iris. So this is the iris here. This is the cornea, this is the sclera, this is the iris here, and we'll see the lens lying behind the iris. Okay. We looked at the lens, we will know that it is transparent. So why is it transparent? Because it is avascular. Avascular means no blood. So how does the lens get its nutrition as the cornea by the aqueous humor that is secreted by the ciliary processes? Okay, you will see the info connecting together at the end of this chapter. Anyway, so we said that the lens is transparent. Okay, avascular lies behind the iris, and if we look at the shape of the lens here, we would see that it is biconvex. Okay, right here. So if we look at this shape, this is a biconvex shape, right? Okay, not just the anterior surface, but also the posterior surface is biconvex, is also convex. So this is convex and this is convex. So it's pi convex. Okay. Okay, so the lens is biconvex. The cornea, look at the cornea here. It was convex, not biconvex, but the lens is biconvex because the anterior surface and the posterior surface were convex. Okay, so if you look at this picture, this is the lens. All right. So there's what lies inside this space? Look at this space here and this space here. As I said, this where the aqueous humor lies, the fluid fills this space and comes out from the pupil. Okay, and fills also that space as you see here. Okay. Okay. So what does this space has a name? Yes, absolutely. This space has a name and it's called the posterior chamber. Okay, and this is that space is called the anterior chamber. Okay, so if I asked you what are the boundaries of the anterior chamber, you'd say this is the cornea. Okay, and this is the iris. All right. Okay, so the anterior chamber is between the cornea and the iris. Okay, if I asked you what are the boundaries of the posterior chamber, you'd say this is the lens. Which is the nules. Okay, this is the lens, which is the nules. Okay, and this is the ciliary body here, and this is the ciliary body here. So the posterior chamber lies between the what? Uh the ciliary body and the iris and the lens. Okay, okay. In order to get a better view for the posterior chamber and the anterior chamber, okay, let's state this is the cornea, okay, and this is the iris here. So that space between the cornea and the iris, that is the anterior chamber. Okay, let's see the posterior chamber. So that is the lens here, okay, and this is the iris, which there is the ciliary body behind the iris. Okay, so that space between the lens from posterior and the ciliary body and the iris from anterior, it's called the posterior chamber. Okay, if we look at here, we'd see that the anterior chambers or the posterior chamber opens to the anterior chamber. How? By that opening, which is called the pupil. Okay, and the anterior chamber and the posterior chamber is filled with a fluid that is called the aqueous humor. Okay, now let's return to the lens. Okay, so there's a thing about the lens that tells us it's a refractive media. What is refraction? As we said before, refraction is the changing of the direction of the light. So there's a straight line of light coming like this. When it meets the lens refracts the light like that. There's a straight line of light like that. When it meets the lens, it refracts the light like that. And here lies the retina. So the light hits the retina here, hits the retina here. So the lens is a refractive media. The refractive power in general is measured by a unit called diopter. Okay, a unit called diopter. Okay, if we said that the refractive power of the eye is 100%, 100 diopter, I'm sorry, 100 diopter, so the lens contributes about positive 20 diopter from the refractive power of the eye. Okay, returning back to this slide. Okay, if you remember, we discussed this slide because we wanted to know the ciliary muscle or the ciliary body, but we are returning to this slide because we want to see the lens, because we are studying the lens. Okay, so what do we need from this slide about the lens? It's the accommodation process. We said when the ciliary muscle contracts, the venules relax, okay? And when the venules relax, the lens becomes more convex. And when it becomes more convex, the refractive power increases. And when the refractive power increases, when the refractive power increases, the we can see near objects more clearly. And this is accommodation. I want you to put your finger in front of your eye right now. You know what happened when you did that? The ciliary muscle contracts, so the venules became more relaxed, So the lens became more convex, so the refractive power increased, so you could see your finger like this. Okay, so this is what happened. Okay, remember the video again. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So the ciliary muscle right now, let's say the lateral view contracts, so the noodles become more relaxed, so the lens became more convex. Okay, let's see again. Okay, here we go. More, look at this. Okay, look at this. The ciliary muscle contracted, and the zonules became more relaxed, so the lens became more uh, more convex, and more convex means we can see increase the refractive power, increasing the refractive power, seeing near objects. Seeing near objects is called the process of accommodation. Okay, leaving the accommodation to the lens capsule. Okay, so the lens is surrounded by a capsule, which has an anterior portion, okay, and a posterior portion. Posterior capsule, as we see here, and the anterior capsule. All right. So if we see here, the anterior capsule here has an epithelium. What does this epithelium do? The epithelium of the anterior capsule forms the lens fibers, okay? And the formation of the lens fibers is a process that continue throughout life. Okay, we need another piece of info. This is the nucleus, okay? Okay, and this is the cortex of the lens, okay? So this is the nucleus, this is the cortex of the lens, okay? These pieces of info is very important. Why? Because I want to tell you this, brother. I want to tell you that with age, you lose the ability of accommodation. That means you lose the ability to increase your power of refraction. That means you lose the ability to see near objects. So what is the reason? Okay, let me tell you the reason. With age, the lens protein gather more in the center of the lens here. The lens fibers, okay, normally are surrounded in a normal way like that, and is separated like this, and you know as this, okay? It's normal like that. But with age, these fibers gather at the nucleus of the lens. Okay, not just like that. These proteins, when they gather at the nucleus here of the lens, they lose the fluid. Okay, when they lose their fluid, they become more hard. So sclerosis and hardening occurs to the fibers here at the center of the lens. Okay, so with age, so this process happen again. We will see that there's a differentiation between the fibers here or the proteins here in the nucleus and the cortex. Why? Because the fibers or the proteins that will be at the nucleus will be hardening and sclerosis here in these proteins. But the cortex here of the nucleus, as I am highlight right now, cortex here, these fibers will be soft. Why? Because I said before, the anterior portion or the anterior capsule have an epithelium. That epithelium secretes, more fibers, new fibers with age. Okay, so there will be here soft fibers, and here will be hardening and sclerosis of the proteins here. Okay, so there's two types of protein inside the lens. Normally, they're all the same type, but now there's hardening and sclerosis in the nucleus. And because of this, different types of protein of the lens become less pliable and less elastic. Okay, so if we turn back, this process, I'll show you this. Okay, so this process of making the lens more convex will not occur. Why? Because the lens became more harder at its center. Why? Because the proteins gathered at the nucleus lost the fluid, so hardening and sclerosis occurred at the center of the lens, so became less pliable means less elastic, so less accommodation.